Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Om
Namo
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Om Namo
Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskritya
Narayanam
Narayanam
Namaskritya
Namaskrityam
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Naram
Naram Chaiva
Chaiva
Narottam
Narottamam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Devim
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 Saraswatim
Saraswatim
Vyasam
Vyasam
Tato Jayam Udirayet
Tato
Tato
Jayam Mudiraye
Jayam
Srinvatam Swakataha Krishna
Janmatam
Devatam
Swakatha
Svakatha
Krishna
Krishna
Punyashravana Kirtana
Punyasravana
Punyashravana
Kirtana
Kirtana
Vidhyantasto hi abhadrani
Hridyantasto hi
Hridyantastohya Bhadrani
abhadrani
vidhunoti suhritsatam
Vidunoti
Vidhunoti
suhritsatam
Satam
nashtaprayeshva bhadreshu
Nashtaprayesha
Nashtaprayeshu
abhadreshu
Abhadreshu
nityam bhagavata sevaya
Nityam
Nityam
Nityam Bhagavata
Bhagavata
Sevaya
Sevaya
bhagavati uttama shloke
Bhagavati
Bhagavate
Uttama Shloke
Uttamasloke
bhaktir bhavati nayishtiki
Bhaktir
Bhakti
Bhavati
Bhakti
Naistike
Naishtiki
krishnaya vasudevaya
Krishnaya
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 Vasudevaya
Vasudevaya
devaki nandanaya cha
Devaki
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 Nandanaya
Nandanaya Cha
Cha
nanda gopakumaraya
Nanda
Nanda Gopa
Gopa
Kumaraya
Kumaraya
govindaya namo namaha.
Govindaya
Govindaya Namo
Namo
Namaha.
Namaha.
Grandaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
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 So we are studying this chapter 17 of first canto, Punishment and Reward of Kali. We covered the first two sections and we'll cover the rest of the sections today. Punishment and Reward of Kali. In the last two sessions, we discussed about the incident of Parikshit Maharaj, just observing his kingdom, and at one place he observed a Sudra person killing or attacking a cow as well as a bull with his club and dressed up like a king. And bull has 3 legs broken already, and cow is very fearful and very anxious. So Parikshit Maharaj, as a great king, he inquired and he questioned who is actually attacking these innocent animals in my kingdom. And there was a conversation. Parikshit inquires from cow and the bull about the person who is punishing them, and then assures them that as long as I am the king, I will not let anybody cry or lament in my kingdom, including animals. He's not just the king for humans. He's also taking care of animals equally. So duty of king was mentioned here. The duty is to protect anybody who follows scriptures, follows religious principles, and punish anybody who does not follow scriptures or deviate from scriptures. And then Dharma, which is represented by the bull, he speaks to Parikshit Maharaj and thanks him for assuring fearlessness. And in answer to Parikshit Maharaj's question on who are the perpetrator who actually caused this cause this pain to her, pain to him, he gives a very philosophical answer, because it's not easy to ascertain from the immediate cause who is the actual cause of the suffering, who is cause of the real suffering. Parikshit Maharaj was very, very pleased, and he immediately identifies that this bull is none other than Dharma personified. And he also understands that the cow is actually Mother Earth. Yeah. So now this section begins. He is now immediately ready to punish Kali Purusha, who is dressed like a king. Read the verses. 28. Iti dharmam mahim chaiva
Iti dharmam mahim chaiva
samprayitva maharata
santvayitva maharataha
nishatam adade khadgam
nishatam adade khadgam
kalaye dharma hetave.
Kalaye.
kalaye dharma hetave.
Maharaj Parishit, who could fight 1,000 enemies single-handedly, thus pacified the personality of religion on the earth. Then he took up his sharp sword to kill the personality of Kali, who is the cause of all irreligion.
Maharaj Parikshit is a Maharati, one who could kill. Maharati means one who can fight with 1,000 people at the same time, 1,000 enemies. So immediately took the sword to kill the Kali Purusha, who is the cause of irreligion. This is how the great kings were. They would not let irreligion prevail in their country. So, I mean, it is about the time that Kali Yuga is entering. It is not inappropriate to, for Kali's entry at the time. However, it is like, if there is a rainy season, doesn't mean, we just don't prepare for it. We always have an umbrella to cover our head. So similarly, even though, Kali is about to enter this world, still we make our attempts to protect the people, right? So that is the reason. That is how Parikshit Maharaj, as long as he is the king, he doesn't want any Kali activities in his kingdom. That is how an ideal king should be. That's what is mentioned here. Yeah. Can you read this part, Prabhu?
The administrators cannot prevent corrupt activities by allowing wine shops. They must at once close all shops of intoxicating drugs and wine and force punishment even by death for those who indulge in habits of intoxication by all description.
Yeah. So this is ideal king. Ideal administrator should actually not let any kind of Kali to perpetrate, because that will cause spiritual degradation in the society. This is how in those days the kings were before Kali Yuga began. However, we see today excise department is one of the most revenue earning department, and no rulers avoid this kind of thing, because that is a way of income for the country.
Yeah, the governments cannot survive, Prabhu, without that. Actually, that's the unfortunate state.
Yeah. It's one of the biggest revenue stream for
Yes.
For a lot of countries. They don't want to stop this. Tam jighamsum abhipretya
Tam jigamsum abhipretya
vihaya nripalanchanam
vihaya nripalanchanam
tatpadamulam sirasha
tatpadamulam sirasa
samagad bhaya vihvala.
samadhaya vihvalaha.
Bhaya Vifala means he now very much fearful. Samagad, he immediately surrendered to who? Kali immediately. He dressed like a king. But as soon as there is this, challenging situation, he immediately surrendered. That means he's not really a Kshatriya. Yeah, please read.
When the personality of Kali understood that the king was willing to kill him, he at once abandoned the dress of a king and, under pressure of fear, completely surrendered to him, bowing his head.
Yeah. So it's very much revealed that he's not really Kshatriya at all in his character, because Kshatriya either fights back, he's not ready to give his life, or win over whatever he thinks is the dharma. Right? There are only two things he does. That is a real Kshatriya. Not like today's politicians who send all the poor soldiers to the forefront, and they take shelter, safety shelter, right? So it's not like that. The king was always in the front, right? So that is how a Kshatriya is. But he's Kalipurusha is not at all a Kshatriya. He's like a Sudra. So he immediately surrendered out of absolute fear. And he also gave up his dress. He was dressed like king until then. He also gave up that dress. Yeah, so please read this part.
In the age of Kali, there are so many pretenders dressed and posed like administrators or executive heads, but their real identity is disclosed when they are challenged by a real Kshatriya.
This we see even in today's politicians. They are not really Kshatriyas. Patitam padayor vira.
Patitam padayor
Kripaya dina vatsala.
Kripaya
Deenavatsala
Sharanyo navadichrokya.
Sharanyo Navadichlokya
Aha chedam hasanniva.
Ahachidam Hasanva.
Please read.
Maharaj Parikshit, who was qualified to accept surrender and worthy of being sung in history, did not kill the poor surrendered and fallen Kali, but smiled compassionately for the kind, for he was kind to the poor.
So just like Lord gives shelter to anybody who immediately surrenders. A great devotee of Lord, also acts similarly. Even though Kali Purusha is nefarious by his character, but because he surrendered out of fear for life, Maharaj Parikshit immediately gave him shelter. Right? He smiled compassionately because suddenly he changed his whole position, right? And he surrendered. So he smiled. Yeah.
He
Continue.
was smiling because the artificially dressed Kali had disclosed his identity as lower class man. And he was thinking how ironic it was that although no one was saved from his sharp sword, when he desired to kill, the poor lower class Kali was spared by his timely surrender.
Yeah. Because he surrendered, he will. It doesn't mean that he will allow his activities. We'll see how tactfully Parikshit Maharaj handles this case in the next verse. He doesn't. He may give him shelter, but doesn't mean he will let him act in the way he wants. Right. So next he speaks. Rajo vacha.
Rajovacha
Nate guda kesha yasho dharanam. No. Baddhanjalervai bhayamasti kinchet.
Anjali
Avartitavyam bhavata katanchana
वर्तितव्यं भवता कथञ्चन
kshetre madiye tvam adharma bandhu.
क्षेत्रे त्वम् अधर्मबन्धुः
Adharma bandhu means a friend of religion, referring to the Kali Purusha, right? He will speak very clearly. He is not mild anymore. He sheltered him, but this is how a king should be. He should not fear anybody. He should not, become mild with sweet words. He has to follow his standards. Yeah, please read.
The king thus said, "We have inherited the fame of Arjuna. Therefore, since you have surrendered yourself with folded hands, you need not fear for your life. But you cannot remain in my kingdom, for you are the friend of irreligion."
Very clear instruction. I'll spare your life, but you cannot stay in my kingdom. But what is Parikshit's kingdom? The entire world. So there is no place for him, basically. Yeah, continue.
He wanted an ideal king like Maharaj Yudhishthir and his descendants like Maharaj Parikshit to rule the world. And therefore, a responsible king like Maharaj Parikshit could not allow the friend of irreligiosity to flourish in his kingdom at the cost of the good fame of the Pandavas.
This is the reason why Lord established Pandavas to be the king, because they are responsible kings and they would establish, the supreme religious principles in their kingdom. You just, if suppose a lot of people argue why there should be war, even Mahatma Gandhi argues, why, if Lord Krishna is the reason for the war, I would not accept his teachings. That's how he says, because his principle is non-violence, right? But if suppose Kauravas were to rule the country, will they follow the principles like Parikshit Maharaj or Yudhishthira Maharaj? No. The reason is simple. We have seen how they have behaved with Draupadi, right? How they have tried to kill Pandavas. They're, by nature, they are, adharmic people. So naturally, they are not the ideal kings for the establishment of dharma. So this is the reason why Lord brought. So by the way, recently there was a nice video of Prabhupada, bashing Mahatma Gandhi. I hope you have seen that video, some of you at least.
No, I haven't. Yes,
Yeah,
please
because
share.
lot of Indians, especially, we have very soft corner for Mahatma Gandhi, as a
Yes,
spiritual leader, right?
Right.
leader of peace.
Yeah. But Prabhupada just says it's all theoretical idea. Whatever his principles, the non-violence is a theoretical idea, because never, was there any history? Prabhupada simply asked, was there any history where non-violence, through non-violence, one had won the kingdom? No. I mean, either Kurukshetra war or in the past, so many kings overthrow others, and it's never, without violence there is no way one can attain kingdom. It's like Prabhupada says, it's all because of the the other people like Subhash Chandra Bose that India actually achieved freedom. Otherwise, it's not because of Mahatma Gandhi's non-violence, because there is nothing to fear. If Mahatma Gandhi were to continue his modes of freedom fight, why there is any reason for British to give up India, right? It's somehow working out. So yeah, Prabhupada is very clear. And now a lot of people actually agree that it is not because of it's not because of Mahatma Gandhi India attains freedom.
Like Congress made a history basically on Mahatma Gandhi's. This India's godfather.
Yeah, because it's all it will further their government.
Yes,
Right.
yes, yes. They made all the stories appropriately. Yes.
Uta. Acha.
Mute yourself if you are. Okay, let's read the next verse. Tvam vartamanam naradeva dehes anupravritto yamadharma puga
Yanupravritto yamadharma
gonitam chauryam anaryamam ho
Lokam Chauryam Anaryamamho
jestacha maya kalahascha damba
Samaya Kalahascha Dambaha.
Yeah, please read.
If the personality of Kali in religion is allowed to act as a man god or an executive head, certainly irreligious principles like greed, falsehood, robbery, incivility, treachery, misfortune, cheating, quarrel, and vanity will abound.
This is how our current executive heads are, and that is why we have all these things in the society. Yeah, please read.
The principles of religion, namely austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness, as we have already discussed, may be followed by the follower of any faith. There is no need to turn from Hindu to Mohammedan to Christian or some other faith and thus become a renegade and not follow the principles of religion.
The four principles of religion are austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. And these are the foundation for, for dharma, foundation for dharma. And to safeguard them is to declaring fight against Kali. And Prabhupada actually took these principles from this chapter very explicitly. If you look at, when previous acharyas within our Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, there is no very explicit push on that. But Prabhupada really took this, from this chapter. He wanted at least those who practice Krishna consciousness, or the Sankirtan Yajna, should stick to these four principles to avoid the influence of Kali in their own life, personal life, society life, right? So, yeah, and these are universal principles, as Harivilas Maharaj also, proclaims. So, and doesn't matter whether you are of a different faith, anybody can follow these principles, and they can safeguard themselves from the influence of Kali. And we don't need to really change religion also. Right? The four regulative principles actually are, we only say, okay, this will help, to stay as Krishna conscious, but actually those are principles of religion. They will safeguard the principles of religion. Yeah. So the Bhagavatam religion are just following the principles of religion. That is the reason we also try to practice this, and as per the instruction of Srila Prabhupada.
So Prabhuji, does that mean that somebody can be a Christian or a Muslim or any other faith? He follows these principles as per Bhagavatam, and then can he still go to church, for example?
Yeah, I mean these are going to remove the influence of Kali on your on you, so that you won't have any of these these covering your consciousness.
So it's not necessarily an ideal state.
It's not ideal. I mean, it is like bringing you to neutral state, right?
Okay.
From negative state to neutral state. From neutral state to positive state is practicing, further principles of Krishna consciousness, like chanting and Navaveda Bhakti. That is a positive life. So this will make you a sane man, Let me put
Okay.
it right. And anybody can follow. It doesn't matter whether you are of Christian faith or Mohammedan faith. We see that those who are sincere practitioners of all these other religions, Mohammedans, they eat meat, they drink wine. There is no limitation, right? So that is,
Oh.
if you do all of that, at the ground level, your principles are broken, right? Actually, what is the point of achieving God? Where is the point of achieving God, right? At the baseline principles itself, you are not even come to neutral state, or human platform. So these will bring to human platform to help us even understand spiritual truth. Without following these four regulated principles, it's very difficult to even accept, Krishna, for example, right?
Yes,
You may
yes.
try to, but it's all very, very weak faith. It won't. Once you start following four regulated principles, your faith would steadily increase, right? You have a formidable faith you can develop at some point, right? That's why children born in Krishna consciousness or raised in Krishna consciousness have much easier time accepting Krishna consciousness than many of us who have violated these and difficulty accepting for a long time. It takes a while for us others who haven't who are breaking these four. Takes some time.
Okay. Okay.
So in this context, anyway, that's to explain this. I was just hearing a lecture by His Grace Radheshyam Prabhu. So one time, I'll just give the story so you can understand what is positive aspect I was talking. So one time, Srila Prabhupada, was inquired by, some journalist in US. His idea of, spirituality is you sit in meditation, you become very tranquil and, very calm and, stay relaxed. So that was his idea of spirituality, and he's practicing some Patanjali yoga or something like that. So he approached Prabhupada. He told about his own understanding of spirituality, and then he said, "I am watching your disciples. They're all dancing on the road, loudly chanting God's names. Maybe after practicing some more meditation, they will become sane and stay sober. Is my understanding correct?" Like that, he asked Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, "No, your understanding is completely wrong. What they're doing is actually the right spirituality. It is the positive spirituality. If you engage in dance, merry dance for your own pleasure, that is material life. But what they're doing is actually spiritual emotion. It's not material emotion. So the positive spirituality is you have positive spiritual emotions towards the absolute truth. What you are talking and what you are practicing is bringing you to neutral phase, where you are practicing this meditation and trying to calm your mind. That is only neutral phase of spirituality, right? You are doing negative things, and now from there you are coming to neutrality, meaning you are not performing any negative acts. That is a step towards real spirituality. What the devotees of Hare Krishna movement, they are doing is actually positive spirituality, where they're expressing their spiritual emotions towards the supreme absolute truth. So that is actually positive life, positive spirituality. I hope it is making sense, right?
Yes. Thank you, Prabhu. Yes.
Navartitavyam tadharma bandho
Navartitavయం तदर्मबन्धो
dharmena satyena cha vartitavye
धर्मेण सत्येन वर्तितव्ये
brahma varte yatra yajanti yajnair
ब्रह्मावर्ते यत्र यजन्ति यज्ञैः
Yagneshwaram Yagnavitana Vigna.
यज्ञेश्वरं
यज्ञेश्वरं यज्ञवितानविघ्नाः.
Please read.
Therefore, O friend of irreligion, you do not deserve to remain in a place where experts perform sacrifices according to truth and religious principles for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
See, in my kingdom, the Brahmanas are always performing various religious principles and for the satisfaction of Supreme Lord. So you have no place here. It's like, we are all sent out from Goloka to the material world because we don't fit there. So similarly, Kali Purusha, you cannot stay as long as I am here and, where in my country, the sacrifices for satisfaction of Lord are performed. Prabhupada speaks about Sankirtan Yajna here. Yeah. Please continue.
In this age of Kali, the greatest common formula of sacrifice is the Sankirtana Yajna. That is the opinion of the experts who know how to propagate the process of Yajna. Lord Chaitanya preached this method of Yajna, and it is understood from this verse that the sacrificial method of Sankirtana Yajna may be performed anywhere and everywhere in order to drive away the personality of Kali and save human society from falling prey to the influence of the age.
Yeah, so this is the method that is given by Lord Chaitanya. Yeah, so and this will help drive away Kali. Yeah. Yashmin Harir Bhagavan Ijamana.
Yasmin Harir Bhagavan Ijjana
Ijatmamurtir Yajatam Samtanoti.
Ijatmamurtir Yajatam
Kaman Amoghan Stirajangamanam. Antarbahirvayur Vaisa Atma.
Antarbahirvayur Atma.
Yeah, please read.
In all sacrificial ceremonies, although sometimes a demigod is worshipped, the Supreme Lord Personality of Godhead is worshipped because He is the super soul of everyone and exists both inside and outside like the air. Thus it is He only who awards all welfare to the worshipper.
Demigods are considered like the limbs of the Supreme Lord. Like Indra. So generally, a lot of these sacrifices given in Puranas, they worship various demigods like Chandra, Varuna, Vayu. But who are they? They are actually limbs of the Supreme Lord. Bharat Maharaj performed so many sacrifices, and in the sacrifice they say Chandra is Swaha or Varuna is Swaha. So like that, the mantras are also specific to each demigod. Right, but the idea of performing the sacrifice is not to please those demigods by Bharat Maharaj, who is a great devotee. So he was very intent on pleasing the Supreme Lord, and he was seeing clearly that all these limbs are actually representing the different parts of the Supreme Lord. So as long as a sacrifice is performed, even though they are from these Puranas, worshipping various devatas, but if the performer actually sees the various demigods as the limbs of the Supreme Lord, then it is actually worship of the Supreme Lord himself, right? So that's what the same idea that here Parikshit Maharaj is praising here. So he is the super soul of everyone and exists both inside and outside like air. Thus, it is he only who awards all welfare to the worshipper. Even though the worship is done to the demigods, the worship is actually done to the Supreme Lord himself, right? When in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, one may Yanti Deva, Vata Deva, even though you worship demigods, that worship is indirect worship of me. It's because ultimately I am the source of all the demigods. Yeah. So Suta Uvacha
Suta Uvacha
Parikshatvaitam Tvaivam Adishtaha.
Parikshitaivam
Adishtaha
Parikshitaivam Parikshitaivam Adishta
Parikshitaivam
Parikshitaivam
adishta
Adishta
Sakaler Jata Vepatu
Sakalir
Sakalir
Patu
Samujjatasim Ahedam
Samudhyata
Samudyatantim Ahidam
Ahidam
Dandapanim Ivodyatam
Dandapani
Dandapanim Vodyatam.
Translation by His Divine Grace, Yes, Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Sri Sutta Goswami said, the personality of Kali, thus being ordered by Maharaj Parikshit, began to tremble in fear. Seeing the king before him like Yamaraja, ready to kill him, Kali spoke to the king as follows.
Yeah, Dandapanim means Yamaraj. So the Kali is quite afraid of Maharaj Parikshit because Parikshit Maharaj is speaking fearlessly and very harshly in a way, even though he gave him, saved his life. Yeah, so you see, yeah, please read this.
The king's order must be obeyed, otherwise the culprit's life is in risk. That is the way to rule the personalities. That is the way to rule the personalities of Kali, who create disturbances in the normal life of the state citizens.
If administration is not very strict, then the Kali-like people in the in the world, they actually cause more disturbance to normal citizens. No, Kali will speak. We'll skip this. We can read this translation directly. Yeah, please read.
Oh, Your Majesty.
Please go ahead, Prabhupada. Please go ahead.
Oh, Your Majesty, though I may live anywhere and everywhere under your order, I shall but see you with bow and arrows wherever I look.
It's like a bad dream. So Kali, he closes his eyes or opens his eyes, he's seeing Maharaj Parikshit with bow and arrows everywhere. Literally, the whole country is ruled by, the whole world is ruled by Maharaj Parikshit. And in his kingdom, everywhere religion is followed. The dharma is preserved. So naturally, Kali realized that, oh, this Maharaj Parikshit is, put me in a very tricky situation. Right now, I have no place to live, literally, because he could immediately understand, even though he didn't kill him, but he gave him really no real shelter. Yes.
The personality of Kali could see that Maharaj Parikshit was the emperor of all lands all over the world. And thus, anywhere he might live, he would have to meet the same mood of the king. The personality of Kali was meant for mischief, and Maharaj Parikshit was meant for subduing all kind of mischiefs mongers, especially the personality of Kali. Wonderful.
Yeah, very nice translation by Prabhupada. Tanme dharma bhritam sreshta.
Tanme
Sreshta.
Anam viddeshtum arhasi. Yatraivam yato vastya. Ishtante naushanam.
Yes, Lord. Therefore, O chief amongst the protectors of religion, please fix some place for me where I can live permanently under the protection of your government.
Yeah, give me some place. Yeah, so that is his request. Yeah.
A surrendered soul should be given all protection, even though he may be an enemy. This is the principle of religion. And we can just imagine what sort of protection is given by the personality of Godhead to the person who surrenders unto him, not as an enemy, but as a devoted servitor. The Lord protects the surrendered soul from all sins and all resultant reactions of sinful acts.
Sarva karman parichajya. So, aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayisami. So, for a surrendered devotee, Krishna actually takes away all his sinful sins as well as sinful reactions. Here, the Kali Purusha is somehow, you want some place to reside. So he's requesting for it. Because you are the ruler, you have to, I am also you have to protect me also. That is how he's asking. Suta uvacha.
Suta vacha.
Yaditastada tasmai. Anani kalaye dadau. Yutam panam striya suna. Dharma chaturvidha.
Sutta Goswami. Go ahead, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Sutta Goswami said, Maharaja Parikshit, thus being petitioned by the personality of Kali, gave him the permission to reside in the places where the gambling, drinking, prostitution, and animal slaughters were performed.
The places where the 4 regulative principles are broken. Right? So, like Maharaj gave this, but Maharaj Parikshit gave, but literally there is no place like that, right? That is the situation in that time. Yeah.
In the Vedas, 2 different types of injunctions are there for the pravartas, are those who are engaged in the material enjoyment, and for the nivartas, are those who are liberated from the material bondage. The Vedic injunction for the pravartas is to gradually regulate their activities towards the path of liberation.
In the Vedas, because Vedas are accommodative for everybody, they consider, like kindergarten student to PhD student, right? So broadly, the teachings are divided into 2 teachings. One is Pravritti Marg, the second is Nivritti Marg. Pravritti Marg is the path of material enjoyment, meaning for people who are still materially desirous or materially still have desires, Vedas do not preclude them. They actually provide them a path whereby slowly they can get away from their material desires. That is Pravritti Marg. Nivritti Marg is those who are completely gotten rid of material desires and fully surrendered to the path of liberation. So for them, Nivritti Marg, where is prescribed. Yeah. So that's what Prabhupada is saying. Yeah. So there is a potential for these things to exist still, because people are not of equal standard. Yeah. Yeah, this is a nice point. So I highlighted here. Yeah, please read.
One man's food may be the poison for others. Similarly, what is recommended for those in the mode of ignorance may be poison for those in the mode of goodness.
So Vedas give, prescriptive injunctions for each mode, each mode. I mean, people in different modes. So what is instruction for people in mode of ignorance is not at all ideal for people in the mode of passion or ignorance. So one has to follow injunctions according to one's consciousness. And what is given by Prabhupada is for the people in the mode of which mode? Passion or ignorance or
Mode of goodness.
Yeah. Because foundation is following 4 regulative principles. So it's only, I mean, if somebody is Krishna conscious, at least at a physical level, they are already in mode of goodness. Physical level. Mental level, maybe still there is lingering negative things, but at least physically they are at least in the mode of goodness.
Prabhuji, you're mentioning that such place of 4 regulative prohibitive principles did not exist at that time, but if I kind of look at it, gambling was done by Duryodhan, inviting Yudhishthir Maharaj, and then there was a Karna was involved with drinking wine once and was saved by Arjun and Bhim. So there were a few sprinkling moments where this prohibitive.
Yeah, that time Pandavas were not ruling, right?
Yes.
That
Okay.
is-
So when Pandava started ruling, they completely wiped out all these
Yeah.
irrelative principles. Got it.
So there is always chance, because material world means there is always going to be fight between dharma and adharma. If
Right.
they if they observe that this thing is spreading, they will immediately cut it. That is just like rain is a possibility, and we should always protect ourselves from it. So similarly, the great kings like Pandavas, they always try to protect. There might be incidents, it's not like it's never there.
Yes.
But as soon as the king identifies them, they immediately get cut down.
Right. Got it.
But what Prabhupada gave us, even in this midst of Kali Yuga, is such a benevolent thing that it keeps us at least 90% away from influence of Kali Yuga. There may still be influence of Kali Yuga, but at a basic level, at a foundation level, it helps us. Punaschaya cha manaya
Punaschaya chamanaya
jata rupam adat prabhu
जातारूपं मदात् प्रभुः
Tonritam madam kamam
अतोऽनुतं मदं कामम्
ajo vairam cha panchamam.
रजो वैरं च पञ्चमम्.
Yeah. So Parikshit Maharaj gave 4 places. Now he's asking for one more, because the 4 places are very tough to find in his kingdom. Yeah. Please read.
The personality of Kali asked for something more, and because of his begging, the king gave him permission to live where there is gold, because wherever there is gold, there is also falsity, intoxication, lust, envy, and enmity.
So Maharaj Parikshit gave gold. Gold, what is gold actually? Gold represents what?
Kali.
Yeah, Kali, but not necessarily Kali.
Sense gratification.
Yeah, for most of the materialistic
Prosperity.
prosperity, gold represents wealth. It not literally gold. Wherever there is wealth, there is a good chance of people becoming proud, You can see, the richest people, they all break 4 regulative principles. They all go through divorces, etc. Right? So we can see in our own experience in current times, there is a great chance, especially if those are not devotees, right? There is a good chance to fall prey to these 4 things: falsity, means cheating propensity; intoxication, drinking wine; lust, envy, and enmity. They'll have enemies because if you have wealth, so many people want to take it away from you. Envy, because the wealthy people are always envious of people who are more wealthier than them. Lust, because they desire more. Once you have something, you want more, so there is no limit to it. So all these will come automatically. Once you have wealth, naturally all these things will flow, unless you are a devotee. Parikshit Maharaj has the control of entire world and naturally the wealth of entire world, but because he is a great devotee, and he is always following the instructions of great brahmanas, under their guidance he is ruling the country. So naturally he was protected because of the brahminical culture. But otherwise, in the material world, wealth is an enemy. Yeah. Please read.
Maharaj Parikshit thus gave him permission to live in a place where there is gold, because wherever there is gold, there are all the above mentioned 4 things.
Yeah. So all these 4 things will be there. Amoni panchasthanani
Amoni panchasthanani
Hiyadharma prabhava kali
Yadharma prabhava kali
Auttareyena dattani
Uttareyena dattani
Vasattan nideshakret.
Nyavasatan nideshakrit.
Yeah, please read.
Thus, the personality of Kali, by the directions of Maharaj Parikshit, the son of Uttara, was allowed to live in those 5 places.
See, immediately he was able to think and give him the place. That is the greatness of Maharaj Parikshit. He knows where to keep him. You can read this.
Thus, the age of Kali began with gold standardization, and therefore falsity, intoxication, animal slaughter, and prostitution are rampant all over the world. And the saner section is eager to drive out corruption. The counteracting process is suggested above, and everyone can take advantage of this suggestion.
So the suggestion is to follow the 4 regulative principles. That's what Prabhupada takes away from this chapter as a teaching for all Krishna ISKCON devotees. Ataitani na seveta
Ataitani na seveta
Babhushu purushat kvachit
Bubhushu purusha kvachit
Purushat
Visheshato dharmashilo
Visheshato dharmashilo
Ajalokapatir guru
Rajalokapatir guru.
Therefore, whoever desires progressive well-being, especially kings, religionists, public leaders, brahmanas, and sannyasis, should never come in contact with the 4 above-mentioned irreligious principles.
His instruction for everybody here. So kings, religionists, public leaders, brahmanas, sannyasis, especially people in important position that can influence the society, they must follow 4 regulative principles and evade the irreligious principles. So Prabhupada describes nicely. Yeah. Anyway, we understand this, so we'll skip this. Vrishasya Nashtam Strinpadam
Vishasya
Vishasya nashtam strinpadan
Tapasaucham Dayamiti
Tapasaucham
tapasaucham dayamiti
Pratisandada Aswasya
pratisandhata aswasya
Himcha Samavardhayat.
Mahim
Mahim
cha
cha
samavardhaya.
Thereafter, the king re-established the lost legs of the personality of religion, the bull, and by encouraging activities, he sufficiently improved the condition of the earth.
So basically, he re-established dharma in his country after saving the bull or dharma from the influence of Kali that has entered his kingdom. He he made him run away from the country and now re-established. So this is like a great king. Yeah, please read.
By designating particular places for the personality of Kali, Maharaj Parikshit practically cheated Kali. In the presence of Kali, Dharma in the shape of a bull and the earth in the shape of a cow, he could actually estimate the general condition of his kingdom, and therefore he at once took proper steps to re-establish the legs of the bull, namely austerity, cleanliness, and mercy. And for the general benefit of the people of the world, he saw that the gold stock might be employed for stabilization. Gold is certainly a generator of falsity and in intoxication, prostitution, enmity, and violence. But under the guidance of a proper king or public leader or a brahmana or sannyasi, the same gold can be properly utilized to re-establish the lost legs of the bull, the personality of religion. Maharaj Parikshit, therefore, like his grandfather Arjun, collected all illicit gold kept for the propensities of Kali and employed it in the Sankirtana Yagna as per instruction of the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Gold is certainly a generator of falsity, intoxication, prostitution, enmity, and violence. It's true, but in the hand of a devotee, it can help spread the opposite of it, right? Or Krishna consciousness or Sankirtan Yajna. We have practically seen, like Prabhupada, all the wealth all the wealth that was acquired by ISKCON literally was used to spread the movement by constructing temples, farms, printing books, distributing books, right? Traveling all over the world. He literally changed the face of the world through Krishna consciousness all over the world, various continents, states. So the point is, gold is not bad. I mean, definitely in the able hands, it can be used for the betterment of society through spreading Sankirtan Yajna or Krishna consciousness. So we need to be capable. That is the main thing. So whatever is done will be for the benefit of the society. Yeah, let's read this last part one, I think. Yeah, please read the translation.
The most fortunate emperor, Maharaj Parikshit, who was entrusted with the kingdom of Hastinapura by Maharaj Yudhishthira when he desired to retire to the forest, is now ruling the world with great success due to his being glorified by the deeds of the kings of the Kuru dynasty.
Yeah. So basically, Maharaj Parikshit evaded Kali's influence in his kingdom, and following the great success of his, forefathers, he's able to, re-establish dharma, right? And that is why he was glorified. So this chapter is about the description of activities of Parikshit Maharaj. Right? So this is one of the question by the sages of Naimisaranya, right? That is being answered. So next chapter is about, how, what are the events that caused Parikshit Maharaj to give up his kingdom and go to the river bank to hear Bhagavatam. So that is the next chapter. There is one more verse here. Yeah, please read this. Okay. Ittam bhutanu bhavoyam
Ittam bhavoyam
Bhimanyu suton rapa
Abhimanyu suto nృpः
Yasya palayata kshaunim
Palayata shaunim
Uyam satraya dikshita.
Yuyam
Yuyam
sastraya
Jaya
dikshitah.
Translation. Maharaj Parikshit, the son of Abhimanyu, is so experienced that by dint of his expert administration and patronage, it has been possible for you to perform a sacrifice such as this.
Yeah.
Purport.
Yeah.
The Brahmanas and Sannyasis are expert in the spiritual advancement of society, whereas the Kshatriyas or the administrators are expert in the material peace and prosperity of human society. Both of them are the pillars of all happiness. Therefore, they are meant for full cooperation for common welfare. Maharaj Parikshit was experienced enough to drive away Kali from his field of activities and thereby make the state receptive to spiritual enlightenment.
Continue, bro.
Austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness, the basic principles of religion, prepare the ground for the reception of advancement in spiritual knowledge, and Maharaj Parikshit made this favorable condition possible. Thus, the rishis of Naimisharanya were able to perform the sacrifices for 1,000 years. In other words, without state support, no doctrines of philosophy or religious principles can progressively advance. There should be complete cooperation between the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas for this common good. Even up to Maharaj Ashoka, the same spirit was prevailing. Lord Buddha was sufficiently supported by King Ashoka, and thus his particular cult of knowledge was spread all over the world.
Anytime a particular dharmic principles were spread in the world, whether it is Christianity with the Roman Empire support, Mohammedans, so every religion prospered with the strong support of Kshatriyas at the time. Right? In the recent times, even Tukaram and Shivaji. So there was always, great Brahmana combined with a great Kshatriya leads to great, spread of the spiritual principles. That is how it has worked. So in those days, especially before Kali Yuga, it was, the Kshatriyas were sincerely following the Brahmanas, right? So Brahmanas are also very, their life is just for the welfare of the world, right? So for example, in the Naimisharanya, the sages have gathered together to perform a sacrifice for 1,000 years, for the welfare of the world, not expecting anything from them, just perform for the well-being of the world. So that is the class, that is the level of the Brahmanas. And Kshatriyas were also only interested in the welfare of their praja, including animals as well as human beings. So with their combination, happiness was possible. In today's society, we can see, in Kali Yuga, the beginning of Kali Yuga, the Brahmanas were degraded, right? So it's spoken in Bhagavatam itself. The Brahmanas were corrupted. They were using religious principle to perform animal sacrifice to eat meat. That is like complete contradiction to the Brahmanas of the previous ages. So when Brahmanas were, corrupted, Naturally, Kshatriyas would not follow Brahmanas, and they become very atheistic kings. Right? The beginning of kings of Kali Yuga, described in 12th Canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, describes how the royal dynasties have degraded to mere, hunters and tax collectors. That's how they became, and the whole society degraded. That is how the Kali Yuga influenced, right? But we can see here how an expert king was able to handle Kali very clearly, very thoroughly, right? So we can see, how deficient we are. Like, why is so much deficiency? Why so much anxiety in this world? Because of lack of combination of good Brahmanical principles and, Kshatriya principles in the world currently. So this ends this chapter. So we discussed this section. Parikshit Maharaj expertly gives residence to ironically surrendered Kali. Kali surrendered, taken off his, his kingly dress, and requested for a place in his kingdom. Parikshit Maharaj expertly, advised 4 places where adharma would prevail, and Kali said, I can't, there is no place where in your kingdom there are these 4 regulative principles broken. Then Kali said, okay, live in where there is wealth. So finally, he was given these 5 places, which, the 5th is the gold. So the caution lesson is that, anybody who desires progress spiritually, and in general, any leaders of the society should avoid these 5, especially the first 4. If you are a devotee, sincere devotee, you can use gold in the service of God, but the first 4 should be avoided 100%. So in this way, Parikshit Maharaj is able to re-establish by driving away Kali from his kingdom, and earth prospered again. Bull's legs were re-established, and he was able to rule like his grandfather, Yudhishthira Maharaj. And the last verse is, you are all, all the sages headed by Saunaka Rishi, you're all able to perform sacrifices because of Parikshit Maharaj's expert administration and patronage. Without, king's support, such sacrifices cannot be performed for the welfare of the world. So there was great patronage between, Kshatriyas and Brahmanas in those times. Right. So now we enter the 18th chapter. Next week we'll start this chapter, where Sutta Goswami will explain the events leading to Parikshit Maharaj giving up his kingdom. Okay, so that ends the class for today.